Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Rover Product Enhancements v5.33, bar per room type clickable from availability screen, bill identifiers added to guest bill, and more, presented by StayNTouch implementation consultant Britt DeRoy. I'm your host, Erin Fisher, the content writer here at StayNTouch. Today's presentation will cover how you can get the most out of the Rover v5.33 product release. In this webinar, we will demonstrate how applied filters will not reset upon selecting an allotment and returning to the results screen, identify the cancellation and no-show report added to scheduled reports, highlight how the tax-exempt report is now exportable from the reports inbox, review how bar per room type is now clickable from the availability screen, illustrate how the number of in-house and arriving guests has been added to the room status screen for hourly modes, explain bill identifiers added to the guest bill, demonstrate how the performant invoice now considers routing instructions, highlight file format selection for the journal export when the GOBD export is enabled, indicate the improvement to the show invoice number toggle, illustrate how to enable auto invoice email checkout for ZestWeb and ZestStation, and review how to enable automatic bill email for ZestWeb and ZestStation. We'll have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation, and we will answer them in the order they are received at the end. And that's all I have right now. I'm going to hand the presentation over to you.
Thank you, Erin. All right. So I'm going to use the release notes for the release 5.33 as a guideline through our webinar today. The first functionality that we have released is the management of allotments, and it now applies a filter that will not reset upon selection of an allotment. So whenever I log into my demo hotel and when I go into the menu, groups, and then manage allotments, I can actually use this search bar to enter the search criteria of the particular allotment that I'm searching for. And when I do so, obviously I only have one in my demo, but when I select the allotment, I will be referred to the allotment details. But when I click on the allotment toggle here on the top, it guides me straight to the allotment summary, and it doesn't reset the search criteria that I've added when I was searching for the particular allotment. Moving to the second new functionality is the cancellation and no-show report added to the scheduled reports. So you'll be able to find this report under your menu, Reports, Schedule a Report or Export, and this is where you'll find the cancellation and no-show report when you click on New Report, and this is where you can find it. So after adding these parameters of the scheduler, you'll be able to set up the format, which is now added as CSV. We have also added the tax-exempt report to be exportable from the reports inbox, meaning that from your dashboard, in your menu, Reports, and then New Report, you'll find the tax-exempt report to pull right when you would need it, and it will be saved in your inbox for 4 days. So then when you would click on the report, you would need to set up the date range of the report you're actually looking to pull. You can actually specify a certain company or travel agent, a group code, VAT to be shown with the rates, or include or not include long stays. And if you really want to specify your search, you can actually select certain tax-exempt types to be included. Then when you would run the report, it would be added to your inbox. We have also added a new clickable rate in the availability screen. So when we would move back into our demo hotel and into our dashboard, on the right-hand side in our availability screen, we'll find the bar rate. And the bar rate is now clickable, meaning that whenever we are trying to make a reservation for a select queen for today, and we would click on the price of that particular room type, we would be referred to the creation of a reservation. And the steps to follow would be as per normal standards. However, you would still be able to use the availability screen, open the bar rate, and select a rate to then create a reservation for. As you can see here in the example. We have also added the number of in-house and arriving guests to show in the room status screen, and this only applies to our hourly modes. So when I scroll down and I use the release notes as an example, here in example number 1, you'll see that the arriving and the departing reservation highlighted in the middle would now show in the room status screen the departure time of the reservation that has already departed and the earliest arrival time. When we look at example number 2, here we would have these 2 test reservations, both arrivals. When we would move back into room status screen, it would show the earliest arrival time. It would show the number of adults, children, and infants in the room status screen as well. When we would look into our next example, we can see here the in-house reservation indicated in blue, and again it's shown in our room status screen, and it is actually shown as in as the reservation has already checked in. And for all of these reservation statuses, these new functionalities would apply. So for in-house, arriving, and departing reservations, we'll find these new settings under the room status screen to be included. We have also added bill identifiers added to the guest bill, meaning that when I move back into my demo hotel and I move back into my dashboard, if I would use any particular arrival, I have one arrival here in the system that has a company and travel agent associated with the reservation. When I would move into the bill and charges section on the right-hand side, it would already identify with the routing here that a certain party is going to pay for a part of the reservation. But now we have included to show the icons on every single bill that a routing applies to. Bill number 1 always being for the guest self. Bill number 2 includes a routing for a travel agent indicated with the little globe. Bill number 3 goes to an account, and bill number 4 goes to a company, and the payment method has been defined as direct bill, as you would see here in the example. Then we have included the Proforma invoice now considering routing instructions. And I'm using the release notes to show these examples again. It will show that bill number 1 will always exclude routed charges because this is always the bill that concerns the guest self. Company and travel agent attached bills will always show the incoming routed charges only. All bills will show complete projected charges if there's no billing instructions, and the invoice will show the charge amount based on billing instructions with or without a split. The first example is one without a routing, as you can see here in our example reservation. And when we would refer to the Proforma, if you would look into the layout here, we would see that the description is added in full. When we would scroll down to the second example with routing, here, it would only include the routed charges on the Proforma invoice. Then looking at a routing for a company or travel agent, it would be illustrated according to the routing and any description added manually will be shown here as well. So the file format for the journal export has been amended whenever GOBD export is enabled. And this is a setting enabled by your S&T administrator, meaning that whenever this setting has been activated, the journal export can actually be pulled from the scheduled exports in a CSV format, as you can see here in our example. So whenever the GOBD export has been enabled, you'll be able to set up a schedule to have the journal export delivered in CSV format on a particular time and date specified by you. As you can see here in the example. Then we have improved to show invoice number toggles. And these settings can be found in your settings, financials, and then financial settings. Whenever these settings have been activated, as you can see here, the system will use the invoice number prefix and invoice number to be illustrated on every single layout of bills. So this could be, for example, a invoice, pro forma, final invoice. As we can see here in the example, the invoice number will be shown here in the header. The first example includes the invoice copy number 5, an information invoice which will illustrate the exact same information, pro forma invoice, again, the invoice number has been illustrated here on the top. Then we have also added ZES Web and Station auto invoicing emails to be sent out during the checkout flow. And you'll find these settings under Settings, Zest, Checkout. You'll be able to activate this new functionality by activating the toggle here on the bottom, which is called Auto Email Invoice. Once this has been activated, during the checkout flow, the guest will have an invoice sent to them whenever they have checked out. And this would also apply to, for example, if there is a company or travel agent associated with the reservation and a routing applies to the reservation. So according to the information, so the email address that has been added to the guest profile or to the company or travel agent profile, as shown here on the bottom of the company card, the system will use this information to send the email of the total cost of stay to the guest, company, or travel agent through the Zest Station and Zest Web flow. If you'd like to check if the system has sent out the checkout email, you'll be able to use the activity log in the stay card of the reservation to check if the email has been sent out. You'll find the message here, invoice email has been sent to this email address as the guest self has checked out through either Zest Web or Zest Station. Thank you for your time. Do we have any questions?
All right, thank you, Britt. I'd like to now turn over the floor for questions. Remember, you can submit questions through the question box in the middle of the control panel. So our first question is from David. Does the cancellation and no-show report now have a total number of rooms?
Good question, David. Let's have a look. If we move into our menu, Reports, Schedule a Report or Export, then if we would pull the report cancellation and no-show, the format of the report has not changed, but what we have changed is the format of the scheduler, and the addition of the cancellation and no-show report to be added to the scheduler. So if we would add the schedule details and we would select, well, we would like to receive it every single hour at a particular time, and we would like to receive it through an email delivery. Let's have a look at no, not the correct email address. The layout of the cancellation and no-show report. Oh, sorry. I just need to add the correct parameters here. Create schedule. And when you create a scheduler, you will always be able to go into the scheduled report and run it now. Which is not a part of the cancellation and no-show report, but you'll be able to actually pull it from your inbox, going into your cancellation and no-show, and pull it instantly from here, going into your inbox. And then if we would actually open it, we can retrieve the exact same format. We don't have any canceled and no-show reservations for the particular date range. So let me just go back in and see if when I select a larger date range in the past, let's do that. In a larger arrival date range. Let's see if we can find some reservations here. You can refresh the toggle, use the refresh toggle here to pull the data. And as we have now deployed the cancellation and no-show report to be shown in CSV, it will still show the exact same information. So if you're asking if the number of rooms is shown, it doesn't show a total of the rooms included in the report. It does show the rooms itself and a total open balance, but it will not show on the top of the bottom or the bottom if there's a what the total amount of rooms that has been canceled or has gone no-show for the particular date range that you have selected. The layout of the cancellation and no-show report has not changed.
And David, if that is something you do want to have added, you can always submit a feature request on Freshdesk. So if that's something your hotel would need, that would be the place to go. All right, so our next question is, if you select the bar from the availability screen, will Rover give you the option to click back into the availability screen from the reservation creation screen?
Mm-hmm. So when we would select any particular room type and any particular price, so let's say, again, we go for the select queen, we are already moving into creation of a reservation, meaning that if we want to go back into the dashboard, we would need to move back into our dashboard with the menu on the left-hand side. And if we want to move back into the availability screen, we would actually open up the availability screen here, and then move back into the bar and reselect a price on a particular date that we actually want to create a reservation for. So we cannot move back directly from the creation of the reservation, but we can always reopen the availability screen on the right-hand side.
All right, thank you, Britt. And then next question is, how do I check if my hotel is on hourly mode to display the number of in-house and arriving guests on the room status screen?
So you can identify the difference from a configuration perspective. So when we would move into our menu, settings and settings again, we have our reservations segment here, and under our reservation settings we can activate our hourly reservations here. When activated, we can actually see that the hourly mode has been activated, and this is how you would check from a configuration perspective. If we would go into the room diary, and we won't activate it here for our demo, we would see the dates instead of the actual hours. So if you would be in hourly mode, you would see the exact hours of the day and the reservations applied to the particular hours. If I move into my hourly demo hotel, into my room diary from here, the difference is shown in the exact hours, as you can see here. So that's a difference in terms of operational perspective.
Great, thank you, Britt. And I'll give everyone a few more seconds to enter any questions. All right, since there are no more questions, I'd like to take to the floor to offer some final thoughts. So today we demonstrated how applied filters will not reset upon selecting an allotment and returning to the results screen. Identified the cancellation and no-show report added to scheduled reports. Highlighted how the tax-exempt report is now exportable from the reports inbox. Reviewed how bar per room type is now clickable from the availability screen. Illustrated how the number of in-house and arriving guests has been added to the room status screen for hourly modes. Explained bill identifiers added to the guest bill. Demonstrated how the performant invoice now considers routing instructions. Highlighted final format selection for the journal export when the GOBD export is enabled. Indicated the improvement to the show invoice number toggle. Illustrated how to enable auto invoice email at checkout for Zest Web and Zest Station. And reviewed how to enable automatic bill email for Zest Web and Zest Station. With that, I'd like to conclude our presentation. Thank you all for coming, and if you have any additional questions, feel free to email me at erin.fisher@StayNTouch.com. Thanks again.